3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you?
I am good, Jevon. It seems like I haven't seen you in a long time.
It does seem like that, doesn't it? I guess it's been at least 2
It's been 2
weeks.
weeks, yeah, because last week was the holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
it does
trust you
seem.
had a good holiday.
I did. I spent besides being at the tennis court on the Saturday, which is where I
Mhm.
spend all my Saturdays,
Yes.
I spent that Saturday, Sunday, and that Monday in my garden. It was
Oh, yes.
absolutely fantastic. We did some heavy duty work. We cleaned out some stuff. We planted
Mhm.
some new crops and
Oh, wow. Wow.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Good for
And
you.
we're getting ready. We had to prepare or prep our garden, which we finished up yesterday, to deal with or to comply with the California drought water restriction.
Oh, yes.
So we had to put some things in
Oh.
place so
But
that
that's easy for you because you do the drip method, right?
most of our containers are, wow, you remember it. Most of our
Yeah.
containers are drip, but we do have a few that are not. So what I did
Yeah.
was I took I bought these water spigots
Yeah.
that you insert into plastic water bottles. So we're
Okay.
recycling as well as
Okay.
maintaining. So
Hello.
you put the spigot into the water bottle. You stick a little hole in the bottom of the water bottle, and then you stick that into the soil, into the containers, and then it just
Okay.
does a drip, 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 drip.
Oh,
And depending
okay.
on the size of the liter of the water bottle, so a regular crystal geyser is what is it, 16 ounces is about 500 milliliters, and that
Mm,
should last a couple of days, just doing a drip,
okay.
drip, 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 drip. So
Okay.
we do a deep water, and then during the week we use the drip, 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 drip.
Nice. Nice. You know, you should take a picture of that. That sounds like something out of Star Trek, but super cool. That's probably why you're so easy and mellow to deal with because you got that garden time. You're not
Oh
thinking about
yeah,
rest.
man.
You got
It's relaxing.
yeah.
It's my peaceful time. So
That's so cool.
yeah, I'll have to
I
show you.
don't have anything like that. I need to get something like that.
Yeah, you need to get something like that. Everybody need. Well, you do your cooking and you do your cigar bar, and
I do. I don't do as much cooking, and that cigar thing is not as healthy as gardening.
well, this
I
is
mean,
true.
it can be relaxing, but it's definitely not as healthy as gardening.
Right, that part's very true. But it's basically finding those things that you're interested in doing that,
Yeah.
and that. So
Well,
that's what I do.
there you go. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, we've got some great things to talk about today. I'm super stoked. Thank you for that article. So I tell you what, how about if I read your bio and then we
Okay.
jump right into are you on track for retirement?
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Okay, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations on the Patio with Crystal and Jevon. Please meet my friend and colleague, Crystal Mitchell. She is a business coach and consultant, the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show, instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and last but not least, a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Welcome, Crystal. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Glad to
Okay.
be here.
So, are we ready to talk about today's stuff?
I am.
This
While you
topic?
while you open it up, I'm gonna find the email that I sent to you with
Okay. Yeah. So, um, for those of you that don't know, Crystal often sends me um, uh, things and articles to read to talk about on the broadcast. In fact, sometimes I don't have anything to talk about on the broadcast until Crystal sends something to talk about. So thank you for that.
You're so welcome. I have it. I have my news feed input set for things like retirement,
Yeah.
business, entrepreneurship. So every now and then a nice little article just pops right
Oh,
on
okay.
in.
All right. Well, that's
And
good.
yeah, so that's what
So
happens.
yes,
That's what
at
happens.
least one of us has our finger on the pulse.
Well, that's why we're a team, dude. That's why we're a
There you go.
team.
There you go. I'm glad you put it that way. So, so uh, last article that you sent me was about theoretically, are you on track for retirement? And it suggested that if you were a certain age, there's a lot of other people in the country that have a certain amount of money. And it talked about that. Great article. Thank you for sending it for me. I have some issues with it. Of course, I gotta have an issue.
Well, of
Right?
course, but that's why we have this conversation, right? Because
Yeah.
we speak into the retirement guru.
Yeah. Yes. So the article, and I'm not going to give the name of it, but I'm sure we can find it if someone wants to know. But the article suggested, and just so I don't misquote it,
Mhm.
that if you are between 25 and 34, you should have somewhere, or let me put it this way. And this was kind of cool because I've never quite actually seen it like this.
Okay.
But the article suggested that the average person between 25 and 34 had over $30,000 of assets, right, in retirement, set aside for retirement. And the mean, which, as you know, is the largest group of people, which I think is very interesting, had only about $13,000, which is um, very interesting. How about if I put it that way? It's
Okay.
very
Okay.
interesting. And then,
Very interesting.
and then if you're between 35 and 44, then the average account balance was 86,000, but the mean was around 32,000. Okay, so what does that all mean to you and I? Well, to me, because I didn't give Crystal a chance to talk about what it means to her, but to me, that means that people are saving, right? And we need to do that.
Okay.
My issue is how important is it to know what others do? Rather, I'd like to know, are you on track? So if $13,000 has you on track for what you want in retirement, great.
Right.
That's all. If you go to any mutual fund company that is worth their salt, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say has an interest in being in the business of providing retirement plans. That's what they do. They've made the investment in the programs. They're not sort of a program. They're not sort of a place where, yeah, if you want to do one, we can do that for you. These are folks that have made the decision long ago, hey, we're going to provide retirement plans for companies, individuals through companies. So those kinds of folks, I'm not going to name them, we call them legacy carriers. And then there's that group. And then there's a little bit smaller group and then another bit smaller group. Lots of them give wonderful service. They all have a couple of things. One is they have a risk questionnaire. That is, they have some little form that you can take that gives you what your risk tolerance is. And it usually is, and they're all the same. Usually they take 10 minutes, 12 minutes with a ham sandwich for you to complete. And they give you a goal. And every client that I talk to that happens to be an employee, I make them go through this questionnaire before we have a conversation, because I can't talk to you about your plan until you do that. So the other thing that they have is some type of worksheet / test / calculator that tells you, based on what you have, you can do the algebra, based on what you have, what you're going to have when you reach retirement age, or based on how much you want at retirement age. This is what you need to have, and this is how much you need to contribute in order to get there. Standard, pretty much. So
What happened, me or you?
is the amount that folks have on average, I get a little bit of a prickle because I don't know if that's appropriate or not. Right?
Well, I think I would be. I think I'm on online with you because, of course, this has, would you be on track depending on where you lived? Would that have any bearing on it? Because if you lived in state of California and you're 30 years old and 32,000 definitely is not going to go at the distance if you lived in Alabama, say Alabama, right? Or
Right.
Mississippi. 32,000 is a whole lot of money in the South. It's not a whole lot of money at all on the West Coast.
Very much the case. Very much the case, and very well said. Very well said.
Right. So I think that it's great to know what the medium is, but I think, yeah, like you said, we're all different, and that's why I believe you that questionnaire you asked. And not only that, I might be in the South ready to just to kick my heels up and make sweet potato pies or peach
I love
pies.
sweet potato pie.
I know, huh? Every day, and I'm good. But if I'm on the somewhere else, hey, I might want to travel the world. So
Yes.
my needs might be different than
Yes.
the person that just wants to make sweet potato pies, in their declining in their second act for their second act. I was going, what I was getting ready to go, but we
I
ain't gonna
did know
call
where
it
you
that.
were going. I did.
We're gonna
You
say
know,
in their second act.
there you go. There you go. I just as an aside, I think about my retirement. I hadn't considered making sweet potato pies. That's not a bad gig. That's not a bad way to go. I could spend some time, fry a few turkeys, make some sweet potato pies, and I'm done. Yeah,
Right.
this might not
And
be a
you
bad
may
gig.
even have a little side gig there, right? Just
I
to
might have a little
supplement.
side gig, that might not be a bad way to go. You're absolutely spot on and correct. And I love the way you said that. Depending on where you live, it really
Mm-hmm.
is important. And I'm just going to add to it because you hit the nail on the head. I don't even know if we can talk anymore about it, but do you own your own home? Do you own your own home? That to me, besides what you just said, is huge because
Yeah.
let me just look at my notes. If you are 34, if you're 44, let's say you're
Mm-hmm.
44 and you
Mm-hmm.
don't own your own home, or let's say you and the bank, if you and the bank don't own your own home,
Right.
your life is going to be dramatically different than if you and the if you don't have that relationship with the bank. That is to say, if your home is not going to be paid off by the time you're 70,
Mm-hmm.
you've got a dramatically different situation than someone who doesn't. And I get it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be wrong or less or what have you, but we have to do some adjusting because all of the calculators that I've seen
Mm-hmm.
suggest that if you've got your home paid off, this calculation ought to work. And of course, we don't know what's going to happen 30 years from now. If I had that crystal ball, I tell you, we wouldn't be here on this show. I know that if I knew what was happening 30 years from now. So
Right.
great article because some people, I suppose, need that as a backdrop, but we got to go further. The article doesn't go far enough. It's got to say, hey, based on what your needs are. In fact, I would really like this article if it said, if this is your number X and you're
Mm-hmm.
34, you are
Mm-hmm.
on track or not on track. How did you figure out what your number was? Now that,
Oh yeah, now that would be more like it, right? Because now I can apply it to my situation.
yes,
You could apply it to your situation.
yes,
And also I think there's a very small percentage of people that are counting down the days to retirement. My brother-in-law was one of those, right? He had a
yep.
countdown. I think his countdown started when he was 40. Um, and it was number of years before he actually retired, but he had in his head, and he constantly had conversations on what he wanted to do, how he wanted to do it, and And he's famous for saying, when everybody's going, like on the holiday for Memorial Day weekend, we had a friend drop by. My sister had made this amazing cake, and so she dropped by to get a piece. So we're talking. She goes, "Oh, got to get back to the grind tomorrow," meaning Tuesday. It was at that time Tuesday, and then I was like, "Yeah, I work at home. Still got there's a Tuesday schedule. It's at home, but it's a Tuesday." So my brother-in-law sitting on the couch going, "Some of us don't." It's just like he wasn't even paying attention to the conversation. He was watching Little House on the Prairie or something, and he goes, "Well, some of us don't."
Oh my goodness! Talk about just sticking the little knife there and twisting just a little bit,
And
I get that.
Fell out laughing.
I hear you.
But
you definitely don't want to live for retirement. You don't want to live for retirement. You don't want to make that the time you start having fun. I mean, you do have to have balance in your life.
Right, exactly.
But it is so important to not focus on the future, but every once in a while, put some interest in there as to what you want to do. And, like you said earlier, we're so different. I've talked to people, all they really want to do, their major plan is to ride their motorcycles from place to place around the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, that takes some planning. But that's what they want to do. And then I talked with another couple. They want to buy one of those big motor coach kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
And visit all the national parks. And I thought, that's a great idea. But, you got to buy the motor home.
You got to buy. I have my mom, when she was in getting pre-retiring and all her friends were getting ready to retire, quite a few of her friends did that. They sold their homes. They were living in LA. They sold their homes, moved out to like Apple Valley, Lancaster, where the cost of living was much less, right? Took the money and reinvested it in and purchased. Well, they had motorhomes. What they did was they upgraded their motorhomes so they would be new. And they kind of did that before they left their jobs. So then that's exactly what they did. They traveled. They went camping probably 3 times a month. They went to some of them would go and camp out at like some of the national parks, and you could stay there for like 30 days. So, I mean, if that's what your goal is, I mean, if you worked hard and this is something that you enjoy, that's not a bad second act either.
No, it's not bad at all, especially now with the internet and all that kind of stuff. You can keep in contact. Mm-hmm. I had a boss when I was in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of the most fabulous people that I ever had the opportunity to work for. Mm-hmm. And her goal was to have a home someplace on a beach with cement floors and 2 chairs out front under a little bit of an awning, so that all she had to do was hose it down and then watch the surf on the beach. That's all she wanted when she retired.
That's not a bad second act either.
That ain't bad. I don't even think, to be honest with you, Chris, I don't think the place had a kitchen in it. I don't think there was any.
She was gonna eat locally every day, right?
I think so. I think she just needed a place, just to have a cot in there, and that was it. And when people came over, if they did, and I don't think she needed them to come very often, if they did, she'd hose the place down, hose it out, and you can have one of the chairs on the stoop. She was in the other one, and I thought, that ain't bad. That's not
right.
Bad.
That's not bad. And if you want those kind of after work life, that second act, you need to sit down and start having conversation before 30.
At least soon thereafter. So that's cool. So great article for pointing out about where you could be and things like that. But just a little short, and I get it. You can always write more.
Right.
I think I would have liked something that said, "Hey, I believe I need this much, and I've got this much." I think that would have been a little bit better, so we'd know if Americans are woefully unprepared or if some of them are going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think though there's quite a few that are woefully unprepared. I was having a conversation. My best friend's mom passed away
Mm,
that on Thursday, and so she made her pre-prep for it. Her father had passed away some 20 years ago, and they were from uh, Cuba. So different
mm.
mindset far as, preparing with insurances and so forth. So her father didn't have insurance. And so it didn't get perpetually moved to the mom, which in 20 years, they could have had a nice, insurance policy. But they did have, they put money aside for it, but I thought, um, even giving thought to that, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that you have life insurance because, life insurance can definitely be to for your final expenses. But at the same time, here's the thing as a caregiver, and I've been in that position, the caregiver, especially if it's a relative, a child, daughter, son, generally you have to give a lot of your personal life up in order to take care of your loved one, right? Well, that
Yes.
means that you could go for many, many years sacrificing on opportunities that can increase your revenue, and you sometimes find yourself in a hole. So even if you don't need those expenses for the final, you kind of have to look at who's going to take care of you because they may need, you to have incorporated that so that they can get their lives back on track. You know what I mean?
I
Um,
know exactly what you mean. And I think it's very interesting that you bring this up because I talk about something similar when we talk about, especially women having children.
mhm,
I mean, if you're a if you're a young lady and you decide that you want to have children, which I think is a wonderful thing to do, um, and especially if you want to stay home and have children,
mhm,
then then life insurance becomes incredibly important then.
mhm,
But just think maybe 7, 8, 10, 11 years, you're going to be out of the workforce. You've
mhm,
got an amazing job and goal that you need to do. But at the same time, your earning potential when you come back is going to be dramatically less than what you think it is. It's never going to be
mhm,
more, right? Unless some kind
mhm,
of creative thing happens. So um, those years, you've got to really take a look at, okay, how am I going to get back into the workforce? What is that transition going to look like? And, how do I manage that? And I think, you know, to your point there, if you're at the place where you are going to take care of someone, the person that you're going to take care of, they've got to realize that, okay, you know, we all have to go. And if I should go uh, in a progressive situation, how do I
mhm,
compensate this person who's going to spend so much of their time taking care
mhm,
of me? How do I get them ready? I mean, I think
mhm,
when you get right down to it, um, the world has changed. I mean, there was a time when we didn't talk about finances. There was a time when, okay, you put your life on the line for someone else, and you get rewarded by that. The employer says, you did that for someone, so we're going to take care of you. That's not the
mhm.
way things work now. Now it's, do you have the skills or not? We love
Right.
you. You did that. That's great, but do you have the skill set that we need to get this done? You graduated from high school. Okay, great. Do you have the skill set to get this done? Especially when we're looking at smaller employers, right? Where
Mhm, mhm,
you may not have a training program or something like that. So I think you're making an excellent point when it comes to, especially women, because they do tend to be the major caregivers when it
mhm,
comes to having the beginning of someone's life and when it comes to having the end of someone's life. And if you're
mhm,
involved with a person like that, I think it's a new kind of love to suggest, okay, let's plan this out. And if you're involved with that person before they start that, let's take a look at how do we make this person be able to resume their life, or how do we give them the opportunity to take care of themselves. And we usually, well, I took care of you when you were in diapers. Yeah, but I grew up and became not a person. Right.
Right, exactly. And I love the way you thought you talked about no longer having the skills for the new current workforce. So being able to at least set aside, so if they have to go back and be re-educated or reskilled, they can do that, right? It's something to think about, something that when we're in our planning, from a parent standpoint, and as we have always said, this is a family that's going to retire, not
Yeah.
just the parent is retiring or you're retiring. It's the entire family is going to be affected by this new change that's going to take place. So making sure that we talk about that as well, because I don't think we talk about that enough
We
on what
don't.
does that look like when there's caregiving or when you reach that incapacity stage.
Yeah. I think you're making an excellent point. It struck me, though, that when you were talking that, we think about that final time of caregiving and essentially someone's become incapacitated. But,
Hmm.
along the way, I mean, you might not, that's not all there is to it. I mean, like the person reaches those particular years, maybe they sell the home and they've got that cash, they move in and they become a different part of the family. Hopefully they're not grumpy and horrible horrible to their in-laws.
Right,
That's
right.
that's rough. So hopefully you're not going to be that way. But there's a lot of caregiving that they can give themselves. And like you said, I think that was absolutely brilliant. This is a family plan, and now we can start doing things as a family rather than, well, this is what mom wanted. Well, mom is
Yeah,
no longer alone.
right,
Mom has a group of
exactly.
people around her,
Right.
so that mom is part of the family.
Mom
So
is part
she
of the
needs to be
family.
included
And
in the situation.
and it does make a change. And sometimes, like in my girlfriend's circumstance, her mom, once the father died, I mean, she was literally in the caregiving mode for over 20 years.
Oh wow,
Yeah, for 20
yeah,
20 some years. And then those last 10 years were pretty rough. And she took some financial hits in
yeah,
that time. She's
yeah,
working, of course, but just, so again, more the reason when you're talking about that risk questionnaire, and also that where you are right now, where you want to be in a year, where you want to be in 2 years, 5 years, is, you know, when we look at the way the world is today, oh my God, those are imperative questions nowadays, because our world is so in state. The stability of it is just questionable right now, right?
yeah. You're so right. I had a happy hour um, meeting that event that I
Hmm.
threw. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and the speaker was suggesting that with the way that technology is advancing, I don't have the numbers, but the chances, if you're in your 40s or 50s now, the chances that you're going to have a job in the next 5 to 10 years that looks anything like the job that you have now are very, very slim. So, the products that we have now are getting so much more better. We have these writers on insurance products. We have different kinds of jobs, different situations. I mean, who would have thought 20 years ago that people would work from home? Right? No, we don't do that. So things are changing. So it does behoove all of us to take a look at that plan once a year, twice a year. Don't
Hmm.
spend your life on it, but take a look at
Hmm.
that plan and see where you are, what kind of changes you need to make, and how things are going, and then make sure you if you have a goal. And now people are going to get letters, and people are going to say to me, I'm sure, well, Jevon, how much do I need? Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that. I don't think anybody does, Certainly you should have enough. Well, what is that? And I dance around and get philosophical with folks. It's not a good deal. I would say, you got to put all those factors in there, and then you got to make a decision as to how much you need right now, and then see if you can add some inflation to that or what have you. But you got to start with something, right? And then once you get there, then we take a look and say, well, yeah, you can do that, or you can do it this way, or you can do it this way, right?
And it definitely starts with you sitting down and really looking at your life and where you want that, what that life should look like, or where you want it to look like. We all should have hopes and dreams and aspirations, but we just can't let it happen. We have to, your favorite, what's your favorite word? Plan. You have to plan
Yes.
for it.
Have to plan for it. And any financial advisor that I've ever met wants to do that. They want to sit down with you and make a plan. And a lot of people say, I don't have enough money. And a lot of people say, I'm just a simple person. Number one, you have enough money. You do. You can find these folks, especially if you work for an employer. If you sit down with me, your company's already paid me to do this with you and for you. It depends on where you are, right? If you don't have very much money, you can always call somebody up who's in the financial services industry, and they will give you something to start with, right? You can go from there. And then, a lot of this planning comes from, where are you right now? Let's start there. That's a big chunk. Where are you right now? And then what do you think is gonna happen? But if you do have a job with a retirement plan, company sponsored retirement plan, that person wants to sit down with you. And if that person doesn't sit down with you, tell your boss and get them fired. And that's all I can say is tell your boss, get them fired, because they are there to do just that. And just because you don't have a huge amount of money, or just because you've got a wee bit of a complicated story, does not preclude them from sharing that knowledge with you. I'm not saying that they're going to give you a nice little book at the end that has, this is your future. I'm not saying that, that's not the case. But they should always be willing to have a conversation with you. And I would say at least every 6 months, and at the bare minimum annually, about where you are, where you want to go, how you can get there, what kinds of options there might be, and just an hour conversation, a 45-minute, 30-minute conversation about what am I going to do with my life with regard to finance. They should do that for you. And if they don't, tell your boss, get them fired.
Get them fired.
Get them fired. There's too many of us out here that will do the work, right? So get them fired.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody I've never met a financial advisor in my whole 30 some odd years of doing this. 18 years of doing this. I've never met a financial advisor that would say no to that question. Never, ever, ever. Never.
Yeah. No, I would say, back in the day when I was in that financial space, that's what they wanted to do. That's the first thing to do, is to sit down and have a conversation. I got to know where you are before I start, or I should know where you are. Let me rephrase that. Before I start offering you products.
Exactly.
I got to sell you products.
Oh, you need this, but I no. Trust me.
But you don't even know what I'm doing, why I need it. What?
That's okay.
I don't need to know that. Generic. It's a generic one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, but good conversation, and
very good stuff. Thank you for sending me that article.
You are welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So now I want to talk a little bit about a subject that's pretty dear to me, and that is the 10 best days to be in the market. And unfortunately, this list that I have, because to be honest with you, I haven't seen a list past this in a long time. But I was looking on the internet, and this is the 10 best days to be in the market between 1929, and 2008. Right?
And that's probably
So
this is probably good because market is kind of crazy right now.
the market's crazy. It is. And I think it's very poignant because what it shows, and if you want, we can read some of the specificities, but what it shows is that you never know when you should get in. So, for example, one of my clients called me up and said, Jevon, this market is going crazy. Do you think I should take my money out and wait until it calms down, or leave it in because it's just going crazy? It's going up and up and side. I just don't know what to do. And I said to them, well, of course, right. You got to take that risk questionnaire. We got to figure out where you are, where you want to go.
Right.
And then we had a discussion about the problem with taking your money out, which is you never know when to get back in because the market doesn't give us those signs. It doesn't give us, it's not like my tea kettle that starts to whistle when the water is about to boil. The market doesn't do that.
Right.
So how do you know when to get back in? One of my favorites is the largest, and this is March 15th, 1933. The Dow Jones logged in its biggest one-day percent gain ever prior to that, of 15.3%. One day, people in the market got an increase of 15.3%. That's pretty good. Right. That was March 15th, 1933. If you'd put your money in on March 16th, you missed it.
So just a very small window.
That was it. Just that day, you had to get in and your money had to be there, right? So if you put your money in the middle of that, you didn't get it. The money had to be there, which means that if you're in a retirement plan, you had to put your money in on the 14th
in order to get it on
before the market closed.
So wow.
It was sitting there on the 15th so that you could get that bump.
That's wow.
Right?
Wow, wow. That's eye-opening.
Right?
Yes.
And we have some other ones, but if we get a little bit more recent, this is one that I really, really like. It's because I remember the Black Monday. This was in 1987. You and I were youngsters then.
Right, but I do remember this.
So 2 days after Black Monday, where the Dow Jones recorded its worst single session, 2 days after the bottom, the index managed to rally more than 10% on Black Monday. So investors saw the index tumble 22.6%. And then as fear, computerized programs, and inflation abated, investors once again poured into the market, pushing the Dow Jones up 10%. Here's the good part about that. As people were feeling how remember who was president back then, right?
Wasn't that Reagan?
That was Reagan.
That was Reagan, yeah.
Yeah. So, which goes to show you, it doesn't matter, Republicans or Democrats. It doesn't matter who's in office. They really can't affect. What are you going to do when a pandemic hits you? Or what are you going to do when, a war starts? You can't, or a famine hits, and wipes out. You can't do anything about that.
No, you can't. I mean, because you have no control. You don't even know when it's coming. I remember, I'm trying to think. I think I got into the financial industry in 87.
No, you didn't. You're not that old.
I do remember that though. I was out of college. I was early working
Really?
days. Yeah.
Now 87, not 97.
Yeah, 97. I was actually 97. I actually became it. That's when I actually went off on my own.
Wow.
As an entrepreneur.
Oh wow.
I know. I just look good for my age.
You look good. Well, you look good, but especially for your age. My goodness. Mercy.
Yeah, I think I have to look back, but I think I had I
Wow.
think I had
Okay.
just gotten into the financial industry around that
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I have to read this again just for effect. So, October 21st, 1987, after Black Monday. Okay, so only
Mm-hmm.
2 days after Black Monday, we're talking about like a Wednesday, just any other
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, the Dow recorded its worst single session loss. The index managed to rally more than 10%. So on the Monday, investors saw the index tumble 22.6%. That means you put your dollar in, it's only worth 78 cents. And
Mm.
people are pissed.
Mm-hmm.
But Warren Buffett types were like, yay, because they saw that and they were like, get in, right?
Get
So
in now.
get in
Buffett is
now.
always saying, get in now.
Exactly. As fear over computerized trading programs and inflation abated, and this is the important part, investors once again poured into the market, pushing the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 10% on October 21st.
Mm.
So that says a couple of things. Number one, the market rises and falls dependent upon investor feelings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is totally emotional,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. Totally. Totally.
Right.
There was actually, I just Googled it. So, Warren Buffett actually wrote a letter on, let me see what the date was. In 1987, it was his letter to his chairman of board and said their gain during 1987 was $464 million.
That's what their gain was.
That's what he says. That he wrote a letter to his shareholders to tell them, all about how they had their earnings during that time frame, because he's always telling people to get in low,
Yeah, buy low, sell high, and
right?
that's what that. Yeah, that's cool. 10% one
Yeah,
day.
one
We
day.
have. When you think about the average return in the stock market since the crash, if you don't include 1987, oh sorry, 2008 and 2009, if you don't include that, some financial advisors suggest that's between 9 and 12% for the year.
Yeah.
9 to 12% for the year. So if we can get 10% in one day,
Hmm.
that's pretty
That's
good.
that's
Now,
amazing.
of course, you have to put that with the the loss of 22%, and that's where I think things get really really confusing, because if someone says, okay, this year I lost 22% on all of this, boom,
Yeah.
I put some money in, I made 10% on this little bit, right? For the end of the year, what do I end up with at the end of the year, right? Because the market is going up and down. I have a friend that tells me, you can't guarantee me, Jevon, that I'm not going to lose money. And I say to him, you don't lose till you sell.
that's
So,
that's true.
right. And if you
Right.
lost the 22, lots of folks say you got to get like 42 in order to make some money, right?
Hmm.
Because 22 just gets you back to zero. Okay.
Right.
Well, that's cool. This is how you do it. 10% in one day, but you got to be there.
You got to be there.
Got to be there. I
I,
could
I
talk
just
about as you know, I'm pretty passionate about this stuff. I could talk about this stuff all the time, and that's just generally not appropriate.
but it's all about historical data, right? Though, so when we look at this one at one time in history, but then when you go back and look at overall time in history, whatever is happening right now may not look as bad, and then 5 years from now people will go back and go, yeah, but on this day I made sure I got in the market, and oh my God, I made that in 10%. Yeah, some ups and downs, but that's the whole. I was just telling someone that the other day. They were still trying to decide whether or not they should invest any money in the market. And of course, they're looking. extreme low risk. But we were talking about something, and I think I almost sounded like you. We were talking about the gas, right? I said, but I wonder, and actually he said it, and it hadn't even dawned on me. He says, what is the market doing in the gas industry? I thought, I hadn't even thought about that. I'm complaining about gas, but what about if I invested in one of those one of those oil companies?
Right.
So
Right.
I looked and I went, oh, wait, I can jump into this one pretty
Hello.
easy.
Yeah. Because the war's not ending tomorrow.
Right, exactly. Maybe I should just jump right on in here. And I went and looked at the major oil companies like, okay. I said, thank you for that.
There you go. There you
Hadn't
go.
thought about that. Don't complain about it. Just jump in it where it is.
That's the deal. That's why I like mutual funds, because they're well diversified. Right.
Yeah.
I remember back in 2001 when we had the .com bubble, when that bubble burst. And that was a very interesting time because I was working at a particular company, and many of my colleagues were a little bit nervous during that time because the market was cruising. Oh my gosh, the market was cruising. And yet the big growth in that company, in those mutual funds at the time, was large company tech funds. That sounds familiar. The big growth is large company tech funds. And so I remember there was pressure on this company to create a large company tech fund mutual fund just to take advantage of those, and to switch over some of their funds to that. And the company that I was with, I really appreciate their strength. They said, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep a well-diversified portfolio, especially in this particular situation. We're going to make this a well-diversified large cap portfolio. Because when this market tanks, people are going to want to have a portfolio that A, doesn't go down as far, and B, is prepared to buy cheap, with things that are there. And that's what they did. And so when the tech market tanked, people lost tons of money there.
I was working in that market.
Yeah.
Whew. And
it was rough for a lot of people.
It was rough, but it was also the business acumen for the people running those industries. They were tech savvy, but they didn't have any business acumen, which is really the truth about what happened behind it. Running a company for longevity they didn't have a clue how to do that. And I worked in the financial industry. I was working by that time I was into an accounting world. And so I got to see it on the inside. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, there was big lump sum, big, huge pots of money that was just being mismanaged all over the place.
I love the way you put it. Pots of money.
Pots of money, because everybody was giving out money. Kind of like right now, huh? Yeah. The financial world is very cyclical, and it is a repeat and rinse. And so if you go back and do your research, like back to 1933 or 1921, just go and research that and see how many similarities there are as to what's happening in your world today.
Good point. Very good point. Very good point. Okay. Go ahead.
No, I just was saying, rinse and repeat.
There you go. So we are at 151. So I'm going to take a moment to read your bio again, because I usually forget to read the bio. So here we go. And then you can take us out. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, everyone, please meet Crystal Mitchell, my friend and colleague. Here's her bio. She is a business coach and consultant, the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollars, co-host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, that other online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Crystal Mitchell, thank you for joining me again, and close us out if you would.
We
Final
had
comment.
another great conversation. Are you on track for retirement? So it does take time, guys, sitting down and seeing what it is, where you want to be between now and the day that you decide to retire. What is it? What's your lifestyle going to be like? Um, what are the potential threats on the horizon? Making sure that you're prepared for whatever that is, and it's not being on track with other people. It's being on track for what your world is going to look like at that time.
Well said. Well said. Well, we will see you folks next week. Have a great time. And thank you again, Crystal. I'll see you next week as well.
All righty. Bye bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.